Hey, what's up everybody? So welcome back to another tutorial. So in this video, I'm going to explain about the checkbox filter using Vue.js. A week ago, I created the same video on Angular, so you can watch that too if you're interested. I want to give the link in the description. So let's jump the first for the demo. Right, you see on the left we have the products, and we on base of those products, if I choose laptop, so if I just try to apply filter, as you could see that we are able to get the relevant data on base of the product, right? So you see here we have the price and the title and the description. As long as I can choose more products like mobile, and you see here we are able to fetch more data on base of the main category of the product, right? So as long as I can check all of them and apply filter, this is going to load the data for all of the products. So you can add as much data you want, and all based on your project, you can use that and just get an idea of that whole product that we're gonna create for you as a tutorial, right? So that's what you're gonna guys could do. And if I just want to uncheck just 3 of them and apply filter, as you could see now on base of the laptop, you could see the 2 products loaded up here, right? So that's what we are going to build here. So I hope you guys will love it. So let's jump in and get started here. Alright guys, so the first thing that I'm gonna do is to open up my PowerShell. You can either open Git Bash, but it provides a lot of easier way to use the cursor to choose the Vue version, right? So I'm gonna clear this out, and I'm gonna open up with the desktop. So let me cd into the desktop. So it's all up to you wherever you want to install. Alright, so let's install the Vue. So npm install -g for global @vue/CLI, and this is gonna generate the install the CLI globally, and then you need to create that with the help of Vue create and the name of the project right after that once it's installed globally, right? So this is going to take a few minutes or so, so I'm going to take a break and I'll be right back. So now it's been installed, so let me clear this out and create a project with the folder. So with the help of that Vue create, and let's give it the name of filter dash checkbox. Just give it that name and press enter, and this is going to create the project for us. So it's going to ask that which version that you need to install. So we are going to work with the Vue 3, so just choose that, and this is going to install the CLI plugin, all the plugins, all the dependencies for the Vue. Alright, so before we should jump there directly to it, I'm going to show you the project for the Laravel that we have created as a backend. So make sure if you have that link in the description, I have explained this whole API. So a few of the things which miss, so if you're following along with me, make sure you just bring this ID in, because we need the ID as well. If I'm going to show you on my Postman, so you see here we have an ID of 1, right? So make sure its ID should be there for your products API, and as same case for the fetch multiple products. So make sure that you have defined that products.id as well here, right, inside your fetch multiple products, or you can follow that all right up here. So as basic is that, right? So this is going to create the folder for us for the filter dash checkbox, and we're going to use here again as a front end, I'm going to use here get boot swatch, right? So just open up the boot swatch and choose the theme from here. So there we are. So let me go to the themes sidebar. We are going to use sidebar here, and right up here just press Ctrl U and grab the CSS from here. So I need to have the CDN for this theme. So all you need to do is to just click on this sidebar bootstrap.css and just grab this one, and once in the install, let's cd into filter dash checkbox. Alright, so let's open up with the VS Code. I'm going to open with code space dot, and there we are, right? So let's run the server first. So I'm going to open up with the new terminal here, and by running this npm run serve, so this is going to run the server for us on localhost port number 8080. Alright, so this is a very basic structure. I'm not going to explain that with the detail, but very bare minimum. So we have our source folder, and inside that we have all the components in, and that's the app.vue, which is the root main app component, which should be there inside your main.js file, as you could see here. So we create the app from Vue, and we have our root app component inside our create app, and then we mount the ID with the div of ID app, which is inside our index.html file, and everything that you see here, it's all loaded up inside our DOM, right, with the help of this ID. And then we have our package.json file where we have all our dependencies, our dev dependencies. All right. So let's go here and run, and we already have run the server, and let's open up on localhost port number 8080, and I'm going to open up with that and see. All right, so we have a very basic boilerplate for the Vue.js application. So all I'm going to do is to just grab the CD and let's add this inside our index.html file. So we are able to get the theme, right? So let's go up right after the title here, and I'm gonna just add this here. So inside our href, and there we are. So if I go back to the browser, and you see here, now it's showing us blank, but we don't need that. So let me remove this hello world.view. We don't need that. We have our on. We just need to display everything inside our root app component, which is the app.view. So I have removed this, so just remove this. We don't need any we don't need any image here, so just keep that, remove it from here. So remove the hello world component from here as well. So if I just want to have my div, and just simply, actually I just need here div, and just give the h1 here and just give it hello world, and you see here whatever I type up here, it's gonna show up right up here, right? So let me go back to here and remove the styling. We don't need any styling from the any custom styling, right? So if I go back here, so this is gonna show us. So let's jump in and start working with the very basic UI that we need to create for our checkbox filter. So right inside the template where we have our structure, very basic UI. So I'm gonna go inside here and define our container with the margin top 4. And right inside here, I'm going to define a row, and we have our styling for the grid, right, which is there inside the boot swatch, right? So let's give it here the call dash md dash 3, and I need to give some margin auto and some margin from the top to before, right? And right after that, I'm going to display here list dash group where we have our all products. So for meanwhile, just give it the heading for products, and we have the list of the products where we have to define the list dash group dash item. All right, so that's where we have all the list there. So meanwhile, I'm going to show just the one. So first give it a label here, and label, just remove this for. So we have our checkboxes list with the list of products. So first give it the input type of checkbox, and make sure you have a class in here. So we have a class form dash control. So form dash control, it should be form dash check dash input for the class for this checkbox, right? And next, we don't need any name and the ID, so I'm going to remove this one from here, and let's define that name to be something like laptop for now. All right, so that's the very basic label, and right after that div, ending of the list group item, I need to show here the button. So let's define the button type of button. And let's give it the class for the button to be BDN-light, and just give it the margin from the top to be 4, and just give it the name of apply filter. All right. So that's the so right after the two divs, so it means that we are after the call dash md dash 3. I'm going to show the card here. So this should be call dash md dash 9. Actually, it just should be md dash 9, and right up here, I need to create another row for this. So let's define here the grid class. So call dash sm dash 4 for the small screens, and for the medium screens I want that, and for the larger screen, LG for large, I need to give it all for larger, and just want for the responsiveness. So if I just make that smaller in browser, so this is gonna show us the responsive effect. So you could see that all the classes are there. You can even add up much more your custom styling for the responsiveness, but this is not for that case, just for the filtering, right? So let's define here the border for the card. So card dash border, and actually that should be card, and then we have the class for the card, which is card, which should be border dash primary, and let's give it the height of 100. All right, so right after that, I'm going to define my card header. And that should be our card header, and I need to define here price, and right after that div, or inside this div, I'm going to define my span tag here, and this should have a class of text dash primary. So let's give it something like 12, whatever, and right after that, after the span tag and the div, I need to define here card dash body class, and right inside here I'm going to define here h4 with the class of card dash title and text dash primary for the blue color, right? So let's give it here something like ASUS, whatever, and right after the h4 I'm going to display some paragraphs description. So let's give it also the class of card dash text, and that should have a text of white, right? So let's define something lorem 30 or so. Let me add that, it should be much. All right, so just give it for 10 words, and now you see here, now we have a very basic structure that we created, right? So I'm going to take a very short break, and once after, right back, we are going to implement our checkbox filters. Alright guys, so welcome back here. So on the left you see we have our products laptop. Now we need to display the list of the product. Make sure again the Laravel project should be running, your backend server should be running. So we have all the products in. So if I click on sending, and you see here we have the products loading up, and as well as for the fetching the filter products on based off the IDs. So both are working, right? So make sure you follow that tutorial, or if you're gonna run the server right that way I just did. So let's gonna load all the products on our Vue application. So I'm gonna open up my VS Code here, where already I have my very basic UI for that. And right inside here, export default, and that's script. Right inside those scripts, that's where we have to define all the logic here, right? So I'm going to create and load up all the products inside the object. So all the objects should be inside our data method. So I'm going to go right after the component. And right after that, we have a data method where we have all the objects. So we have to return all the objects. So let's define that and return statement. And right inside that, I'm going to define all the products as an array. All right, so once I did, and right after the data, I have another very useful methods, right? So that's where we have defined all the methods. So let's define that up here and get all the products in from the API that we created. So I'm going to define here a method name, which is get products, and that should be the function. So let's define that here. And right after that, I'm going to create here a variable with the name of URL equal to, and that should be the base URL. That's the, so I'm going to go to my get products and just grab this one from here and paste it all up here, right? So that should be the URL for the, so I'm going to install the Axios. So this is basically helpful for the HTTP request. So I'm going to go to my terminal, and let's add another one and install the, clear this out, and npm install Axios. So this is going to install the Axios, which is the HTTP client library, which will help us to get the HTTP request, right? So once it's installed, let me go back here and define that URL. So I'm going to define here the Axios dot. I need to first import that Axios, right? So right after the script, I'm going to define my Axios here. So import Axios from the Axios. All right. So right up here, I'm going to define my Axios. So it should be very simple. Axios dot get So with the help of get, we have our URL in, which I have here. And right after that, rather I should have that, or just keep that as simple if you want. You can either, because this part should be different, so I'm going to just add it up here, right? So this should be the base URL, right? So we have all the products in. Next, we have to get the response. So we have dot then, and right inside here, we have our response. So let's gonna define here this dot products equal to this dot response, right? That's all we need. Now, in order to check this out, all I need is just simply console the log and this dot products and just check the response. So this should be response, right? This should not be response. All right, now that's fine, right? So let's have a look and see if I just want to inspect element and go to my console. And right up here, if I just try to refresh this, and nothing happens. I have to do one more thing here. If I want to show all the products in, so I need to have a mount method. So we have a method mount which will load the component in our DOM, right? So let's define that mounted our method, and right inside here I'm going to define in the this dot get product. So this should be very much similar with the ng on init lifecycle hook in Angular. So if we are working with the Vue.js, so this should be very much similar to that. And I need to have here console the log, and so let's give it the name of filter component just for showing up you. Right, so if I go back here and you see here we are getting the error. It says that it has been blocked by core policy, no access control origin header. So we need to define here the header to avoid this error and show the response. So let's define that right after the slash products. We have another property here. We have a headers, right? So we can either define that. So this should be headers. And right inside the headers, we have our access control allow origin. So we can access that, right? The API. So for this, we have access dash control dash allow origin. For all the requests, I just simply need to define here static. So this should have the static. All right. So, oops, actually it should be concatenate that with the URL. So now if I go back and refresh this, so I hope this now gonna work. So now you see here we have our products in, and inside our target object, that's where we have the data. And inside this data object, we have all the products coming in. So what I'm gonna do here is, in order to show all the only the products, so it's inside response.data, and you could see here that right after that, if I again want to show you this response.data, and inside data we have a products array, right? So I need to just simply define a response.data.products. Now if I'm going to show you on my console browser, and you see now we are only showing up all the products in, right? So we have all the 4 products in. So now in order to display that, all I need is, let's go here right inside the products H4 heading, and we have a directory which is with the help of v-4. So right inside the list dash group dash item, I'm going to define a v-4, and let's define a product name of the variable, which, and next we have a product array, and I will also need to define here key in order to make this unique. So let's define here product.id. All right, so this is gonna remove all the error from here. So despite of having the static name, now we have our dynamic name. So product.product_name. So that should be the name of the object, right? So I'm gonna show you real quick that. So if I'm gonna show you, this should be a target array, and now we have a product_name. So in order to access the name, so we have a product_name, and you see on the left, now we are able to see all the products. All right, so next thing that I'm going to do here is, now you see here on the left we have our checkboxes products. So if I just checked one of them, and on base of their IDs, they are stored in an array where we are going to use map method, And with the help of that, once I apply the filter, so it's going to show me all the products based on the IDs that we have, right? So let's first write the function from how we can check this input and get its ID. So let me go back to my my project, and you see here, this is where we have our checkbox coming in. Now we have our loop in on the top where we have our product. So that's where we can grab the name or we can grab the ID, right? So I'm going to define here for the checkbox case, we have something which is known as the click event. You can either write the click in that way or you can define the V dash on. So I think so the preference should be this should be something like this. So V dash on click. Or you can either define, I think so the convention should be at the rate click, which is even better. It's easier to write even. All right, so that's where I'm going to define here a method with the name of filter products. So I'm going to pass here the event. So with the help of that event, we are able to get its ID, we are able to get its value, whatever I want to get it from. So I need here the ID. So let's define here colon ID equal to, and define here the ID with the help of product.id. And remember that all is we are getting from that loop, right? And that should be product ID, not UD, right? Okay, so we have another property which is checked. Now we have to see once it's checked means that once I click on the checkbox, so that should also be checked. So we have a property where we can product.check, right? So we can, whenever it's checked, we can access all the properties from that. So we have another very useful property inside the checkbox. So let's go down here, right inside the methods. So once this method's ending here, so we need to define another method with the same name that we have on top. So filter product. So make sure it should be similar what we have here. So that should be filter products, right? And right inside here, I'm going to pass here the event. That's what we have passed on the HTML, on the click event, right? So right inside here, we have to see. Now, first I'm going to show you that alert, that event.target.id. So this is going to grab its ID. So if I click any one of them, and you see here, now we are getting 2. If I get laptop, that should be the ID of 1. So that's what we are all getting from here, right? Now I need to check that if event.target.check means if it's checked, now we have to add this inside the array, right? That means that we have to store all those IDs inside some array. So just like products array, we have another array that I'm going to define it. So we have our select underscore, let's give it the name of select underscore categories. So whatever you name it, it's all complete freely to use that, right? So right inside here, I'm going to store those IDs with the help of map method. So this dot select underscore categories dot. So before I should add it, or even we can push that array first. First we have to add those IDs inside the array. So we have a push method which will help us to, so you see here appends new element to the end of the array, right? So we have to push those IDs, and next we are able to get it, the IDs with the help of event.target.id. All right, so else statement, if it's unchecked, means that if I click first checked and then unchecked it, then on that case, first we have to again grab its ID. Let's have the variable in. So const ID equal to event.target.id, and then I have to loop all the data. So let's create a variable of data off, and now I need to check that all these selected categories, so we can access with the help of this, and next we have everything which is inside that array. Now if I just uncheck it, that means I don't need that element into that ID. I don't need that ID to be in array. So for that, there is a logic that I need to define. So if that ID is equal to the ID that I need to remove, So whatever the ID that is inside the array and the ID that I unchecked, that should, so I need to remove it with the help of splice method. So it's in JavaScript, that's good. That is able to remove the element from the array. Now I need to remove that ID, the index that I need to find from the array that I need to remove. So let's define here the another method. So this dot find the index of that ID which is inside the array with the help of index of method. So I'm going to define here the data. So right up here, so this dot select underscore categories dot splice method, actually that should be splice. I need to remove the one element from the array, so index, and that should be the index of the ID, and I remove one element, so I just simply pass that one here, right? So that's all from here, right? So let's have a look and see if I go back here and let me check its index first. So let's pass here index, and if I go back here and choose two of them, sorry, it should be this not gonna work like that way. So I need to define here another method where we are able to filter the products. So let me go here, and you see here down here we have apply filter. So first I need to call this method. So right here we have apply filter. So I'm going to define here another event for the click. So that should be click equal to, let's give it the name of get filter data. And let's simply define that just the way I define inside the methods, other methods. So right after that method, I need to define here get filter data. So that should be like this. All right. So right inside here, I need to parse that array. So just like if I have in string, if I have IDs in that form, like I just want to show you 1, 2, I need to parse that, means that convert that into the integer. So for this case, what I'm going to do here is, so this dot select underscore categories, everything which is inside this array. So we have a map method, and I need to convert that into string. So let's give it the parameter of string and return in the form of integer. So return parse int method, and let's pass here parse, right? That's all we need. Now in order to check the data, as I have done, so let's define a variable of const data equal to, so as you can see in my Postman, the IDs that I passed, that's the key for that selected underscore category. So I'm going to copy that up, or the body, whatever you would say. So selected underscore categories, and I'm going to define here the, let's give it the parse. All the IDs are inside the array, right? All right, so let's have a look and see if we are getting the results. So let me log and check the data. Actually, so it says string is never used. Where it goes. So yeah, there it is. So we have our string here. So what I'm going to do is, let me, actually it should be string, not parse, right? So if I check 3 of the products and click here, so you see now the selected categories of 1, 2, 3. If I click 4th one, now array is 4. So let's uncheck 2 of them, and now we have only 2. So we are getting the result that what we needed, right? So right after that console.log, or after the data, actually just remove this here, and let's define the URL first for the API. So const URL, or I just simply grab it from the get products. Next, that should be a post request. So let's define the axios.post, and I need to define the URL, and let's concatenate that URL. So I'm going to go to my Postman and just grab this /product/ and let's define that in the code. So let's define the headers. So headers, and it should be displayed very much similar to the way I have done on top. So let me grab this one from here. So copy that up and paste it right up here. And right after that, I'm going to define the response. So before I should jump now, it's a post request. So we need to define the body, which is coming from here. So right after the URL, we have a data as well in the post request. So make sure all the parameters should be in. So right inside the then we have to define here response. Let's define here the response. And on top here, let's define the variable with the name of filter underscore data, which I have defined, I believe. No. So let me define here filter underscore data, and let's make that equal to an array, and put the comma after at the end. So this dot filter underscore data should be equal to the response that is coming in. So that should be response dot data. All right. So let's have a look and see. But first thing first, we have to loop that data into an array. So I need to grab this filter underscore data. That's where we have all the data in. So let me go to the HTML part, and right inside my, I hope I should need to go to that call dash sm-4. So let's define a v-for directive. So let data in, let's define here filter underscore data, and also define key to make that unique. So that should be data.id. I don't need that, right? Okay. Now we have to loop the data inside the, so that should be the dynamic price. So let's give it the data.price. Same case for the title. So data.title. Remember, these all objects are coming from the data that we have defined in the API. So data.description. Right, so I hope that this is all gonna work. So let me have a look and see. So if I check too often apply filter, it says that no access control is still there. All right, so the few things that I again miss here, there's no need of comma, make that should be concatenated, and slash products. Now, if I go back and refresh this, I hope this is gonna work for now. And if I choose two of them and apply filter, so you see here now we are able to get all those the cards on base of that. Now if I uncheck one of them, and there we are. So if I check all of them, apply a filter, so you see now that every product is loaded. You can make those cards even more cleaner. So if I uncheck all of those and apply a filter, and you see nothing appears here. So you see here how elegant that is to create the checkbox filter in Vue.js. So I hope you guys will love it. So don't forget to like and subscribe, and I want to see you guys for the next time.